The big guy, Jerry Weintraub, didn't want me for this. He wouldn't even consider me for a reading. Every time my name came up in the casting submittal process, he was adamant. He says, I don't want a comedian. I don't want a comic actor for this role.
He was more than just Mr. Miyagi. He was the heart of the Karate Kid. But before his final days, Pat Morita shared the truth about what really happened on set. It wasn't all wisdom and crane kicks. Off camera, there were battles, rejection, and quiet struggles no one saw coming. Why was he almost denied the role that defined his career? What did he experience behind the scenes that he never spoke about until the very end? The story he finally told reveals a side of the film, and himself, that few ever knew. The wall before Miyagi. When people think of the Karate Kid, they picture Mr. Miyagi, the wise, soft-spoken mentor who turned a bullied teenager into a champion. But what most fans never knew was this. Pat Morita, the man behind Miyagi, was never supposed to get the role. In fact, when the casting process first began, producer Jerry Weintraub flat out refused to even consider Morita. To him, Morita was a sitcom comic, best known for cracking jokes on Happy Days, not the kind of actor who could embody a battle-hardened World War II veteran with depth, pain, and wisdom. Weintraub reportedly scoffed at the suggestion, saying, I don't want a comedian. I don't want a comic actor for this role. So, for weeks, Pat Morita's name never made it past the door. Every time it showed up on a list of candidates, it was scratched off before a meeting was even held. Casting directors looked elsewhere, flipping through portfolios of dramatic actors who looked the part. Meanwhile, Morita, who had always dreamed of breaking out of typecasting, watched as the biggest opportunity of his life was denied before he could even try. But fate, as always, had other plans. Director John Avildsen, known for Rocky, believed in underdogs. He saw something different in the script. He knew that Mr. Miyagi couldn't just be serious, he had to be soulful. Avildsen insisted that Morita be given a shot. Against Weintraub's wishes, he made room for the comic actor everyone else had dismissed. Little did anyone know, the version of Pat Morita who would walk into that audition was already beginning to take shape thousands of miles away. Hawaii, beard, and fate. By the early 1980s, Pat Morita's career had hit a quiet lull. Though once celebrated for his sharp comedic timing on shows like Happy Days, the Hollywood spotlight had started to fade. Instead of chasing roles in Los Angeles, Morita found himself in Hawaii, far from the cameras, far from the pressure. There, he took whatever gigs came his way, hosting charity events, performing stand-up, even writing ad copy to make ends meet. To most, it looked like he had gently faded from fame. To Pat, it felt like he was stuck, waiting for something that might never come. And then, almost accidentally, something shifted. For the first time in his career, Morita stopped worrying about looking TV-ready. He let his beard grow out. His hair grew longer. It wasn't for a role, it was just for himself.
You don't realize it at the time. You know, as I got my longer hair and the beard, and I had never done that.
But that seemingly small, personal decision would change everything. When he returned to Los Angeles for a brief visit, his agent nearly missed him. Pat was ready to walk out the door when he was called back inside. There was a script they wanted him to see. That script was The Karate Kid. The timing was uncanny. The beard he'd grown gave him a new look, weathered, wise, and grounded. Gone was the clean-cut comic people remembered. In his place stood a man who looked like he had lived through pain, struggle, and silence. Without knowing it, Morita had accidentally given himself the Miyagi look producers couldn't deny. What followed was one of the most unexpected moments in his life. He read the script, he liked it, and that destiny would all begin with one strange audition. Just him, a camera, and a director who saw the truth. Avildsen's one-man camera test. When Pat Morita finally got the call to audition for The Karate Kid, he expected the usual Hollywood setup. Producers, casting assistants, maybe a writer in the corner taking notes. But what he walked into was something entirely different. The room was nearly empty. Sitting alone, strapped to a bulky camera and its battery pack, was director John Avildsen, the same man who had helped launch Rocky into legend. Avildsen wasn't just observing, he was filming. From the moment Morita stepped through the door, the director had his lens trained on him. There were no pleasantries, no distractions, just a quiet request. Tell me a little about yourself. Morita wasn't reading lines. Not yet. He was talking about his life, his struggles, the highs and lows of a career that had led him from stand-up stages to sitcoms and eventually to Hawaii. He spoke with humor, honesty, and vulnerability. And Avildsen kept rolling. He wasn't just looking for an actor. He was searching for a soul behind the character. When Morita finally read from the script, he didn't deliver a polished performance. Instead, he improvised with raw emotion, leaning into Miyagi's grief, humor, and quiet power. There were no props, no other actors, no costume, just words, emotion, and truth.
And we talked, tell me a little bit about yourself. I told him about myself. Would you like to read? Yeah, pick a couple of pages to read. I pick out two of the toughest scenes in this.
As Morita stood to leave, Avildsen said something that stopped him cold. Pat, don't forget your script. You might need it. It was the first real sign that he had broken through the wall of doubt that had followed him for so long. That tape would become Avildsen's secret weapon. He played it again and again for skeptical producers. And with each viewing, something shifted. One by one, even the harshest critics began to realize they weren't watching a comic audition. They were watching Mr. Miyagi come to life. 5 tests, 1 chemistry. For most actors, 1 good audition seals the deal. For Pat Morita, it took 5. Even after John Avildsen championed his performance and played the audition tape for skeptical producers, studio execs weren't convinced. They wanted proof, over and over again, that Morita wasn't just a fluke, that the man they once dismissed as a comic could carry the emotional weight of Mr. Miyagi. The first 2 screen tests were basic retakes. Same scenes, same setup, just with producers watching this time. Could Morita recreate that raw, stripped-down performance? He did. Every word landed. Every pause held meaning. His portrayal had depth, and more importantly, restraint. But it still wasn't enough. The 3rd test raised the stakes. Ralph Macchio was flown in from New York. The producers wanted to see if there was chemistry. If this unlikely duo, one a former sitcom actor, the other a young, relatively unknown kid, could sell the heart of the film, the mentor-student bond. What unfolded surprised even the crew. The two didn't just act, they clicked. Their rhythms balanced each other. Ralph brought the energy, Pat brought the calm. Then came the 4th test, this time in costume. Would Morita look the part? With his beard, his calm expression, and a simple GI, the transformation was complete. He wasn't just playing Miyagi, he was Miyagi. Ralph later admitted, when Pat dressed as Miyagi, the transformation was startling. It was as if he became the character. The 5th and final test was the most brutal. A cold soundstage. No set, no props, just camera, lights, and silence.
And to Jerry's credit, he gets on the horn and says, Pat, I almost made the worst mistake of my life. I just want to be the first to congratulate you. You got the part of Miyagi.
Morita didn't just earn the role. He forced the studio to reimagine who could be a leading man. And with Macchio by his side, a legendary duo was born. The voice, the set, the legacy. Securing the role of Mr. Miyagi was only the beginning. For Pat Morita, bringing the character to life meant more than just memorizing lines. It meant building a soul. And nothing was more crucial than the voice.
Mr.
Miyagi, it's over! It's over, forget about it!
No!
I'm afraid, let's just get out of here, I want to go home!
Cannot, must not!
Morita made a bold choice. Though he spoke perfect English in real life, he gave Miyagi a clipped, halting rhythm. Inspired partly by exhaustion during early auditions, The cadence mimicked a man who had learned English as a second language. Slow, intentional, almost poetic. It could have easily turned into a stereotype. But Morita refused to let that happen. He treated every pause with care. Every misused article, every mangled phrase carried weight. It wasn't broken, it was earned. Still, the studio had concerns. Would audiences laugh for the wrong reasons? Would critics accuse the film of caricature? Morita walked a razor-thin line, but he balanced it with grace. And when The Karate Kid hit theaters, audiences didn't mock the voice, they embraced it. It became iconic. But behind the camera, Morita faced pressure to keep proving himself. The cast and crew respected him, but he knew he was still being measured. So he gave everything, especially in the drunk Miyagi scene. That quiet monologue, filled with grief and memory, wasn't just acting. It was personal. When the cameras cut, the room was silent. Even the skeptics saw what Morita had known all along. He belonged there. And long after the film wrapped, Morita stayed close to the role. He'd slip into Miyagi's voice between takes, joke with crew members, and even offer advice in character. He knew Miyagi had become more than fiction. He was a symbol of patience, strength, and dignity. For Morita, that was the real legacy. If Pat Morita's words changed how you see The Karate Kid, tap like, tell us your favorite Miyagi moment in the comments, and subscribe for more untold stories from the sets of iconic films. When you're ready, watch the next video on your screen for another behind-the-scenes truth that actors only revealed years later.